Smart woman does not love in the way the world has taught her to. The world tells her that love must be sacrificed without limit, that love must be possession, that love must be giving until nothing remains. She has walked deeper into life and discovered love is not a cage. Love is freedom. Love is allowing another being to grow, to breathe, to expand. And so when she loves, she does not cling, she gives space. When a smart woman encounters affection, she does not rush blindly. She knows that rushing is the seed of regret. Instead, she waits, she observes, she listens. She understands that time is the most honest mirror, for time will reveal what words cannot. In patience, she finds truth. In stillness, she sees who is real and who is only passing. Grounded in respect, first for herself, then for the one she chooses. She will never reduce her worth for the sake of being accepted. She knows that to shrink herself is not love, it is fear. Fear has no place in a heart that has tasted wisdom. She does not beg for love. She creates love from the strength of her being. When she gives, she does not disappear. She does not dissolve into the shadow of another. Instead, she shares her light while keeping her own flame alive. She knows that true love is sharing, not surrendering. It is walking side by side, not walking behind. It is holding hands, not holding chains. Her emotions are not waves that crash recklessly. They are rivers that flow with direction. She does not allow anger or desperation to guide her choices. She allows clarity to lead. She knows that chaos may be loud. Wisdom is always quiet. And in that quietness, she decides how to love, whom to love, and how much to give. When she loves, she shows it not through empty promises, but through presence. She does not decorate love with illusions of dependence. Instead, she reveals love through simple, consistent acts of care, listening deeply, supporting silently, encouraging growth without envy. Her heart is open. Yes, her mind is awake. She has found the balance between feeling and wisdom. She does not let emotions blind her, nor does she let intellect harden her. She knows that love requires both the softness of the heart and the sharpness of the mind. Why does she love differently? Because she has learned the greatest lesson of all. To love herself first. When her own vessel is full can she pour into another. Only when she knows her own worth can she see the worth of another. Her love is not born from need, but from wholeness. And so it is stronger, deeper, and freer. A smart woman loves differently because she has walked the path of pain and turned it into wisdom. She has faced illusions and transformed them into truth. She has understood that to love wisely is to love freely. And in her love, there is strength, there is peace, there is growth. Love is not ownership, it is freedom. The smart woman understands this truth. She has learned that grasping tighter does not make love stay, it only makes the hand ache. A clenched fist cannot receive, but an open palm can hold without harming. So she loves with open hands. She allows space for breath, for mistakes, for growth. She recognizes that every human being is a traveler with a path, and love is not a leash that drags another from their journey. Love is a lantern we carry beside them, a stretch of road never blocking the way. Ownership is born from fear, fear of loss, fear of not being enough, fear that without control the heart will be abandoned. Freedom is born from trust, trust in oneself, trust in the other, and trust in life's rhythm. She chooses trust, not a blind trust that ignores reality, but a courageous trust that says, I will see you as you are, still refuse to imprison you. She knows that if someone must be chained to stay, they were already living in their spirit. She chooses presence over pressure, invitation over insistence, over attachment. This understanding shapes how she speaks. Her words do not demand, they invite. She does not say, you must. She says, let us. She does not test loyalty through traps and ultimatums. She offers clarity. These are my values. These are my values. These are my boundaries. This is the pace at which my heart can walk. In that clarity, love becomes simple. Two people can see whether their steps align without force. Steps do not match. She does not chase to correct the rhythm. She both breathes and returns to her own center. Love that asks you to abandon yourself is not love. It is a negotiation with emptiness. Freedom does not mean indifference. It is not distance for the sake of appearing strong. It is devotion without possessiveness, tenderness without fear. Like a gardener, she knows you cannot tug on a flower to make it grow faster. You water, you nourish, you protect the soil, and you trust the sun. She is the patient gardener of her relationships. She knows the seasons will turn. Some days will be storm, others gentle light. Control tries to command the weather, wisdom prepares the roots. So she strengthens roots, shared purpose, honest conversation, and the discipline to keep showing up. Possession confuses closeness with confinement. She knows the difference. Closeness is two hearts sitting near a warm fire. Confinement is one heart trying to extinguish the fire when it flickers differently. She listens before she reacts. If anxiety rises, she does not tighten her grip, she deepens her breath. If jealousy whispers, she does not interrogate, she investigates her own insecurity and speaks from it with maturity. This is what I feel, and this is what I need to feel safe. Freedom requires skill. The skill of naming needs without controlling another's choices. She practices letting go in small ways every day. She lets go of the need to be right in every argument. She lets go of the urge to read minds and write fearful stories. She lets go of silent punishments and loud dramas that only bruise the bond. She replaces them with simple practices: ask, don't assume, state, don't hint, request, don't manipulate, appreciate, don't audit. When appreciation rises, control dissolves. Gratitude says, see your effort. Ownership says, you owe me more. Gratitude grows love, ownership exhausts it. Freedom also means she keeps her own life alive. She builds her purpose, maintains friendships and mind, and respects her boundaries. This is not a threat to love, it is a gift to it. A whole life is a generous life. When two complete people meet, they pour into the relationship from abundance. Two empty people meet, they sip from each other until both are dry. She refuses to be a well that depends on another's rain. She digs her own spring, values discipline, self-respect, and lets love be the river that flows from it, not the shovel that digs it. She understands that freedom includes consequences. If promises are broken, if patterns harm, she does not cling to the fantasy. She allows the truth to breathe as well. Freedom is not tolerating disrespect. Freedom is the courage to walk when respect is gone. To live with grace is also an act of love, love for self, and paradoxically, love for the other who may finally meet themselves without the cushion of her patience. Staying chained to pain is not loyalty, it is fear disguised as devotion. When love is freedom, intimacy deepens. The other person relaxes because they do not feel watched, measured, or traded. They feel chosen, not trapped. From that relaxation grows honesty. From honesty grows trust. From trust grows resilience. The relationship becomes a dojo for character. A place where both practice patience, strength, and compassion. They do not swing swords at each other's weaknesses. They bow to each other's humanity. In that bow, there is no ownership, only respect. So she loves like the sky, holds the birds vast enough for flight, steady enough for return. She loves like the ocean, holds the boat supporting, not steering, carrying, not claiming. She loves like the mountain holds the foresty, sheltering with presence, not with chains. In her lover, there is space to breathe, to become, to belong by choice. And because it is chosen, it is strong. It is free, it endures. She does not rush into affection. She allows time to test the strength of connection. She knows that a river finds its course not by hurrying, but by meeting each stone and shaping around it. So she moves slowly, deliberately, not to withhold warmth, but to see what warmth reveals. Infatuation is loud, truth whispers. Time is the quiet room where whispers can be heard. In that room, masks grow heavy, performances tire, and what remains is what is real. She understands that rushing is a negotiation with loneliness. The heart that is afraid of silence will accept any noise and call it music. She has learned to sit with silence until it becomes a friend. When loneliness visits, she greets it like weather, passing, informative, never a commander. From this inner steadiness, she can observe the rhythm of another person without making it her emergency. She watches how they treat themselves when no applause is present. She notices how they speak of those who cannot repay them. She listens for the integrity beneath the charm. Time is not delay, time is data. In the early glow, promises are cheap and patience is costly. She invests in patience. She lets seasons pass, the spring of flattery, the summer of comfort, the autumn of challenge, the winter of conflict. Anyone can be kind in spring. She wants to see who shows up in winter. Do they keep their word when it is inconvenient? Do they apologize without being cornered? Do they repair rather than retreat? These answers are not delivered in a week. They ripen like fruit. She does not pluck what is not yet sweet. She does not test with games. She tests with reality. Her boundaries are clear, her pace is honest, her attention is consistent but not desperate. She does not interrogate, she observes. She does not demand perfection. She studies patterns, reveals the person. A single promise can be a rose on a table. A pattern is the entire garden. She is interested in gardens, not bouquets that wilt the next day. To move slowly is not to love less, to love wisely. She understands that attachment formed too quickly is attachment to an image, not a person. Speed paints faces on clouds. Time shows the sky for what it is. She lets shared experiences do the talking, cooking together, making plans and keeping them, navigating a busy week without abandoning tenderness, handling disagreements without detonating intimacy. She notes whether admiration survives proximity, whether desire deepens with knowledge, whether comfort coexists with responsibility. She trusts the body's signals, the breath that tightens when something is off, the stomach that knots when words and actions do not align. But she also knows bodies carry old stories, so she does not obey every fear. She inquires into it. Is this discomfort a warning or is it growth? Time answers. Discomfort fades. As honesty grows, she stays open. If discomfort increases, as excuses multiply, she steps back. Distance is not punishment, it is clarity. She resists the culture of urgency that treats connection like a sale that will expire by midnight. She knows the heart is not a checkout counter. She refuses to be rushed into labels, situations, or promises that do not yet have roots. She is willing to say not yet without apologizing. She is willing to say this is my pace without dramatizing. The right person will not fear time. They will welcome the chance to build something sturdy. In her slowness, she learns the topography of the other's inner world, their values, their wounds, their aspirations, where they are still learning to be gentle. She asks questions that time can answer. What do you do when you are tired? What do you do when you are ashamed? How do you carry success? How do you carry failure? Sacred to you. What are you willing to protect even when it costs you? The reply to such questions is never a sentence. The reply is 1,000 small choices across months. She accepts that chemistry can be immediate while compatibility is revealed. Lightning is beautiful, but she is building a home, not chasing a storm. She wants walls that do not crack at the first wind, windows that let in light without letting in the rain, a roof that holds when the sky is heavy. To build like this requires measurements, patience, materials that have been tested by heat and weight. She would rather arrive later to a love that lasts than arrive early to a love that collapses. Her pace protects both hearts. Moving slowly gives the other person the dignity to choose with clarity. It also gives her the safety to notice when her own longing begins to overwrite reality. If she catches herself editing red flags into pink decorations, she pauses. If she notices she is explaining to friends what the other person's behavior really means, she returns to what it plainly means. Time dissolves rationalizations. She lets it. She uses time to practice procrastinate. She practices presence, listening without planning her reply, seeing without projecting fantasies. She practices articulation in naming what she feels and needs before resentment has a chance to ferment. She practices balance, keeping her routines, her friendships, her body, her work alive while love is unfolding. By living fully, she prevents love from becoming a vacuum that swallows her days. Love should expand life, not replace it. In conflict, her patience shines. She does not crown the relationship after the first perfect weekend, and she does not bury it after the first misunderstanding. She waits to see if both can move from me versus you to versus the problem. She pays attention to repair. Does it happen? Is it mutual? Is it accompanied by changed behavior? Apologies without change are fog. Pretty, but you cannot live inside them. She seeks clear air. She honors timing as an ally of truth. Some doors open only when both hands are free of old baggage. Some conversations matter only when trust has been built to hold them. Some tenderness appears only after the fear of abandonment has been met and softened. Rushing steps on the seeds. Patience waters them. In the end, her slowness is not hesitation, it is devotion to what deserves devotion. She knows that a connection proven by time is a shelter in storm, a sanctuary for growth, a training ground for courage. When she finally says yes, a yes with roots, It is not the yes of fear or scarcity. It is the yes of alignment. And because it has been tested, it can be trusted. Her love is rooted in self-respect, and she never lowers her worth to be accepted. Self-respect is the ground she stands on. Without it, every step in love becomes unstable. She has learned that the heart cannot bloom in a soil of self-betrayal. When she chooses someone, she does not step down from herself to reach them. She invites them to step up to meet her at her level of honesty, discipline, and care. If they cannot, she does not shrink her standards. She strengthens her boundaries. Self-respect begins as a quiet practice long before love arrives. It is the way she keeps promises to herself, the morning she said she would own, the plan she said she would follow, the rest she vowed not to postpone. She refuses to trade for temporary attention. Each kept promise forges an inner spine. With this spine, she stands straight in front of attraction. She can enjoy attention without becoming hungry for it. Hunger begs, centeredness chooses. She understands that worth is not a price to be negotiated. It is a truth to be lived. When someone offers affection at the cost of her dignity, she recognizes the trap. Sounds like love, but it tastes like control. She has tasted both and she can tell the difference. Love says, be more of who you are. Control says, be less so I can be comfortable. She will not dim her voice to soothe someone's insecurity. She will not edit her brilliance to protect ego. She will not accept disrespect disguised as passion or inconsistency disguised as freedom. Her boundaries are not walls, they are gates with clear rules. She does not hide, but she is not available to chaos. She is warm. She is not careless. She knows that saying no is not a rejection of love. It is a protection of love's possibility. The one who can honor her, no, has earned the right to receive her. Yes. In this way, self-respect filters the unready from the worthy, the curious from the committed. She does not confuse patience with tolerance of harm. Patience is the strength to let truth emerge. Tolerance of harm is abandonment of self. Honesty collapses into excuses if promises repeat without change. If her spirit feels smaller with each interaction, she listens to the evidence. She does not stay to prove she can endure. Endurance is not the goal. When love becomes a place where she must shrink to fit, she takes her leave. Leaving is not failure, it is fidelity to self. She measures love not by declarations but by daily alignment. Respect is visible in small things, the message returned when it matters, the attention undivided when she speaks, the willingness to repair after a misstep, the refusal to weaponize silence. She brings these practices first. She models them without preaching. If they are not met, she does not lecture endlessly. She adjusts her distance. Distance is a statement that needs no argument. Her standards are living commitments, not a list to intimidate others. She holds herself to them with the same firmness she asks of her partner. If she asks for honesty, she tells uncomfortable truths. She asks for consistency, she arrives when she says she will. If she asks for kindness, she does not punish with sarcasm or withhold affection as leverage. This symmetry gives her words weight. Respect without self-discipline is posture. Self-respect with self-discipline is power. In conflict, she refuses to bargain with her value for the sake of peace. Peace purchased with self-erasure is an expensive silence, repaid later with interest in resentment. So she speaks when speaking is necessary. She does not shout, she clarifies. She does not accuse, she describes. She does not attack character, she addresses behavior. She does not threaten departure to control, she names outcomes to be clear. I will not remain where I am not respected. The clarity is not cruel, it is clean. She does not chase closure from those who benefit from confusion. She creates closure by closing the gate. This frees her energy to invest in what returns energy, her craft, her health, her learning, her community. Self-respect is not only the defense of boundaries, it is the cultivation of a life that makes poor treatment obviously unfit. When the room is already full of purpose, love must arrive with reverence to be allowed in. Her love grows from self-respect. She loves generously without fear of losing herself. She can give deeply because she does not give beyond her capacity. She can forgive because forgiveness does not mean forgetting the lesson. She can be vulnerable because her vulnerability rests on a foundation of choice, not compulsion. Vulnerability without self-respect becomes exposure. Vulnerability with self-respect becomes intimacy. She knows the difference between standards and perfectionism. Standards protect what is essential: honesty, safety, mutual effort, shared direction. Perfectionism nitpicks what is human, flaws, awkwardness, the slow learning of better habits. She does not demand flawlessness, she requires responsibility. Responsibility says, I see where I fell, I will stand up better. If responsibility is present, she offers patience. If it is absent, patience becomes enabling, and she refuses to train someone to treat her poorly. Her past does not run her present. She has done the work to meet old stories, fear of abandonment, fear of being too much, fear of being unlovable, and she has disciplined them into teachers, not tyrants. Because she respects herself, she will not allow yesterday's pain to select today's partner. She watches for the familiar pull toward what once hurt. If it appears, she bows to it and chooses differently. Choice is her freedom. Self-respect is the hand that guides that choice. In devotion, she remains unmistakably herself. She keeps the rituals that keep her strong, the still morning, the training session that steadies her breath, the reading that expands her sight, the friendships that tell her the truth. She does not sacrifice these pillars for the thrill of constant proximity. The love that fears her independence is not equipped to carry her presence. The love that celebrates her roots will be nourished by her growth. When she says yes, it is a yes from fullness, not from scarcity. She is not auditioning for acceptance. She is selecting a partner for a shared path. Her worth is not a prize to be won. It is a standard to be met daily by both. This transforms the relationship from a place of negotiating fears to a place of training virtues, patience, courage, humility, joy. In such a space, both become more capable, more honest, more free. So her love looks different, steady, open, unbending at the core. She can bow without breaking, bend without betraying, give without disappearing. Self-respect is not a barrier that keeps love out, the frame that allows love to be seen clearly and held safely. Whoever meets her there meets a love that is calm and fierce, soft and uncompromising, tender and true. Because she never lowers her worth to be accepted, the love she finally accepts rises to meet the height of who she is. She gives without losing herself because she knows love is sharing, not surrendering. To her, giving is an intentional movement, like a martial artist extending a hand to guide rather than to collapse. She knows that when giving turns into surrender of identity, the gift becomes heavy with resentment. So she gives with a straight spine, she gives with breath, she gives while remaining present inside her own life. Sharing is two flames warming a room. Surrendering is one flame consuming the other. She guards against the quiet erosion that begins with small compromises of truth, agreeing to what she does not believe, laughing at what wounds her, staying silent where her voice belongs. These are not kindnesses. They are exits from self. She refuses to leave herself to keep someone else comfortable. Comfort without honesty is a pillow over the mouth. Her generosity is structured. She gives time, but not at the cost of her purpose. She gives attention, but not at the expense of self-respect. She gives support, but not as a ladder for someone to climb while stepping on her back. She offers her presence, not her permission to be diminished. The difference is felt in the body after sharing. She feels expanded after surrendering. She feels smaller. She trusts that signal. She understands that giving is sustainable only when the giver remains whole. A cup can pour only if it is replenished. So she keeps her rituals that refill her, training that steadies her, silence that clears her sight, work that expresses her gifts, friendships that remind her of her shape. Stays healthy. She does not apologize for these anchors. She knows love thrives around a centered person. A drifting self cannot hold space for another without capsizing. Because she does not lose herself, her yes has weight. A reflex born of fear that saying no will invite abandonment. It is a considered offering. When she says yes, she means it. When she cannot, she says so early and cleanly. Clarity might disappoint in the moment, but it prevents the deeper injury of false agreements. Resentment is a debt created by dishonest consent. She does not take such loans. She distinguishes sacrifice from self-erasure. Sacrifice is a choice for the sake of a shared value, staying up late to help a partner through pain, adjusting plans to honor a meaningful commitment, taking on a task to relieve a burden in a hard week. Self-erasure is a pattern that denies her needs indefinitely while normalizing imbalance. Sacrifice has a horizon and a purpose. Erasure has no end and no explanation beyond fear. She participates in the first and refuses the second. Her boundaries are the edges that make sharing possible. Without edges, everything spills until nothing remains. She names the edges calmly. This is how I communicate. This is how I repair. This is how I rest. This is what I will not accept. A partner who respects these edges becomes safer with time. A partner who presses them becomes noisier with demands. She listens to the pressure. Love does not need to push to exist. She practices giving through actions rather than performances. She listens fully, not while preparing her defense. She offers feedback that builds, not comments that score points. She celebrates growth without secretly keeping a ledger. When she gives a gift, she releases ownership of how it must be received. Control is not generosity. It is a disguised bargain. She gives because giving is who she is, not because giving is a strategy. When conflict arrives, she does not donate her dignity to purchase peace. Peace that costs self-respect is a counterfeit currency. It will collapse later. She speaks truth with a gentle tone and a firm stance. I can meet you here. She says, I will not pretend. If the other meets her there, sharing deepens. If not, she steps back. Distance is not punishment, it is a return to alignment. She knows that love is a practice of circulation. Care flows out, appreciation flows back. If appreciation does not return, if care disappears into a constant hunger, she examines the system. Is there a leak? Is she giving to be needed rather than to be known? The other consuming without reciprocating because consumption has always been available to them. Awareness corrects the flow. She adjusts her offer until reciprocity has room to grow. She gives chances, permission. Everyone stumbles. She does too. What matters is repair. She watches for the willingness to learn, the humility to own mistakes, and the discipline to change patterns. If growth is present, she invests patience. If growth is absent, she does not pledge more years to the same lesson. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. She will not abandon herself because she refuses surrender. Her love is not dramatic, yet it is deep. There is no theater of jealousy, no ritual of testing, no choreography of punishment and reconciliation. Instead, there is steadiness. There is joy that does not depend on winning an argument. There is admiration that survives the ordinary. Two people carrying their own weight can lift each other higher. Two people demanding to be carried will bring each other to the ground. She understands that sharing also means sharing the work of the relationship, initiating as well as responding, planning as well as enjoying, apologizing as well as forgiving. If she finds herself doing all the invisible labor, remembering, reminding, smoothing, fixing, she pauses. She names the imbalance early, not after her heart has turned into a ledger. She invites partnership. Let us both hold this. If the invitation is declined, she believes the answer. In intimacy, she gives her truth in layers that match the container's strength. Trust is the container. She does not pour all of herself into a cup that has not proved it can hold water. This is not withholding, it is wisdom. Depth without safety is exposure. Depth with safety is communion. As trust grows, she shares more, not to be rescued but to be seen. She remembers that her life is not a negotiation in which she trades authenticity for affection. She shows up as she is and allows the alignment or misalignment to reveal itself. This is the courage that keeps her whole. Some will call it cold. It is not. It is clean. Clean love is warm, but it does not smudge the lines of who she is. So she gives without losing herself. She shares her time, her strength, her laughter, her attention, her tenderness. She does not surrender her voice, her purpose, her boundaries, her values, her name. She offers a seat beside her, not her seat. She offers her hand to walk, her legs to be carried. In this way, love remains a place of growth, not a field of depletion. The result is simple. What she gives multiplies because it is given from a self that remains intact. Her emotions are not reactive but reflective. She chooses clarity over chaos. She understands that a feeling is a messenger, not a master. When emotion knocks, she opens the door and invites it to sit, to speak, seen. Yet she does not hand it the keys to the house. A reactive heart throws stones at every ripple on the surface. A reflective heart studies the water until it is still enough to see the sky. She practices this stillness not by suppressing herself, but by breathing long enough to let the first storm pass. Reaction is fast and loud. Reflection is precise and quiet. She trains the pause between stimulus and response as if it were a muscle. In that pause, she asks not, How do I win? But what is true? Truth is the ground on which wise action stands. Without truth, become flailing, dramatic, exhausting, easily regretted. With truth, actions become simple. Sometimes the simple move is to speak. Sometimes it is to wait. Sometimes it is to walk away. Larry makes all three possible without cruelty. She respects anger because anger protects. But she does not let anger design her sentences. She lets it ring the bell. She walks to the bell tower and looks at the horizon. What boundary was crossed? What need went unnamed? What pattern is repeating? When the message is understood, anger softens into instruction. From instruction, she crafts a clean request. Here is what I need to feel safe, or this behavior does not work for me. Clean requests create doors. Accusations build walls. Jealousy, too, visits. She does not wear it like armor or hide it like contraband. She greets it as information, a sign that something precious feels threatened. Reflection asks, is the threat real, or is it a story stitched from old fabric? She checks the facts. If the fear is fiction, she corrects the story and calms her breath. If the fear is founded, she names it plainly and chooses action that protects dignity. Clarity never humiliates. It teaches both how to proceed. Sadness is a tide she trusts. She does not turn it into theater. She gives it time to wash through. In reflection, she distinguishes grief from guilt, vulnerability from collapse. She lets tears be the body's wisdom. Then she asks what they've watered. Often they water compassion, first for herself, then for the one in front of her. From compassion, she speaks softly without erasing the lesson. Soft does not mean weak, it means accurate. Accuracy is the opposite of chaos. Her tools are simple and consistent. She breathes until the breath slows the heartbeat. She writes until the page shows the pattern. She moves her body, walks, trains, stretches, until energy that would have exploded outward becomes steady within. She speaks only after the body and the page have done their part. This sequence prevents her from outsourcing regulation to another person. She does not demand that others calm what she has not met in herself. In conversation, reflection looks like curiosity. She listens to understand, not to reload. She mirrors what she heard. This is what I'm hearing. Is that right? She asks for specifics rather than fighting with generalities. Chaos loves ambiguity. Clarity loves detail. When details arrive, problems shrink to the size where they can be solved. If details cannot be given, she pays attention. Vagueness is often a shelter for avoidance. She treats silence as a tool, not a weapon. The reactive use silence to punish. The reflective use silence to think. If she needs time, she says so. I'll answer tomorrow. Time becomes a container that preserves respect. When she returns with the distilled essence of what matters, not 10 branches of what doesn't. This restraint saves relationships from the wildfire of impulsive words. She keeps a short distance between feeling and ownership. You made me feel, she says. I feel. Ownership invites dialogue. Blame invites defense. With dialogue, solutions appear, a boundary, a change in timing, a new ritual, a clearer agreement. With defense, the original issue hides behind noise and grows stronger. She prefers to solve, not to rehearse. Reflection does not mean passivity. When a line is crossed repeatedly, clarity becomes consequence. She can close the door without slamming it. She can leave a table without flipping it. Quiet firmness is her signature. Those who mistake her calm for tolerance discover that clarity moves decisively when needed. The decision is not fueled by rage, it is powered by alignment. Because she chooses clarity, she prepares for difficult moments before they arrive. She and her partner design rules of engagement, no insults, no interruptions, a signal for timeout when overwhelm rises, a commitment to repair within 24 hours. Structure protects love from heat. In the dojo, there are mats so that falls do not break bones. In her relationship, agreements are the mats. She understands the nervous system is a library of past alarms. Sometimes her body rings bells for old fires that are no longer burning. Reflection means she cross-checks the present with the past. If an old alarm is ringing, she soothes herself first, then addresses the present with the correct scale. This is how she prevents small sparks from becoming infernos that consume trust. Clarity also governs joy. She receives good moments with full attention rather than rushing to the next peak. She names what works so it can be repeated. The way you listened today helped me feel close. Or our walk after dinner keeps us steady. Chaos forgets to anchor joy. Reflection plants it into ritual. Rituals become the architecture of a calm bond. In her friendships, at work, at home, the same principle applies. Respond, don't react. She teaches people how to meet her by modeling how she will meet them. Directly, respectfully, and with a commitment to accuracy. She does not gossip about problems she has not addressed. She knows gossip is reaction in disguise, a way to bleed energy without healing anything. She conserves her strength for correction, not performance. When she fails, and she does, because she is human, she repairs quickly. I reacted. I'm sorry. Here's what triggered me. Here's what I will change. Accountability is clarity applied to the self. It cleans the air and makes future reflection easier. Shame breeds secrecy. Ownership breeds evolution. Over time, changes the quality of her love. The relationship becomes a clear lake. Even when storms pass over, the water returns to calm because the bottom is not being constantly kicked up by panic. Trust grows. Both know that feelings will be honored without being weaponized. Decisions get better because they are made from vision, not from the smoke of the last fire. Her emotions are alive, not leashed. She feels fully. She chooses wisely. She uses the energy of feeling to power action in the right direction, like wind caught by a skilled sailor. In this way, she travels far without capsizing. Clarity is her compass. Reflection is her sail. Chaos may roar on the open sea, but she moves with intention, arriving where love can truly live. She loves through actions of care, not through illusions of dependence. Affection to her, daily practice, not a performance. Dependence pretends to be closeness by making the other person small. Care builds closeness by making both people steady. So she chooses the ordinary disciplines that keep a bond alive, showing up when she said she would, listening until she truly understands, following through on small promises that are easy to forget. A good relationship is not maintained by grand speeches. It is maintained by kept appointments with reality. She does not dramatize effort. She simply does the work. She cooks when energy is low and cleans when the week is heavy. She says, I'm thinking of you before anxiety asks for proof. She learns how the other person likes to be supported. A quiet presence after a long day takes one decision off their plate, a note that answers a fear they never speak out loud. Dependence says, I cannot live without you, but leaves the dishes for tomorrow. Care says, maybe counter now, and wipes the counter now. She pays attention to patterns. One-off gestures impress, but patterns protect. Does she create stability with her actions? Does she regulate herself so that her partner does not become a caretaker of her storms? She practices self-responsibility so her love can be a gift, not a burden. If she needs help, she asks directly. She does not turn need into a constant emergency that keeps attention hostage. Mature asking is care. Manipulated crisis is dependence in costume. She believes in service without self-erasure. Care is not servitude. Care is a clear yes that leaves room for a clear no. She will wake early to drive someone to an appointment, but she won't abandon the training that keeps her grounded. She will take on more during a partner's crunch season, but she won't normalize imbalance as the permanent setting. She knows the difference between a sprint and a lifestyle. A sprint is love making room. Lifestyle of endless sacrifice invites silent resentment to set the table. Her actions are specific because love is concrete. She tracks birthdays, milestones, and the small anniversaries that matter, the two of them. The park where the first hard conversation turned into trust, the cafe where a shared dream was born. She turns memory into ritual, a monthly check in, a walk after dinner to clear the day, a standing rule that phones go away during their first 10 minutes together. Rituals are care that repeats itself. They are also a shield against the fatigue that erases connection when life gets loud. Repair is one of her most sacred actions. She does not expect flawless harmony. She expects friction and prepares for it. When she misses the mark, she moves first. I'm sorry. Here's what I did. Here's how I will correct it. She does not offer apologies that place the blame on the weather or the world. She offers a change in behavior that can be measured. Dependence waits to be rescued from consequences. Care accepts them, learns, and returns stronger. She learns the language of appreciation, not only the grammar of critique. She names what is working so it grows. I noticed you did the unglamorous thing even when no one was looking. Praise given for substance, not just for show, becomes nourishment. Appreciation is an action because it requires attention, and attention is a currency that cannot be faked for long. Where attention flows, relationship grows. Her care is intelligent. She does not give what looks impressive, she gives what is needed. If a partner is overwhelmed, she offers simplicity, not more stimulation. If they're stagnating, she offers challenge, not indulgence. She asks, what would lighten your load by 5% today? And then she does that. Small and accurate beats, grand and misaligned. This is how she avoids the trap of giving for her own image rather than for the other's well-being. She protects the perimeter around the bond. That means boundaries with distractions, not just with people. She guards shared time from the theft of endless scrolling and the slow leak of constant multitasking. When they are together, she is there, eyes, mind, presence. Presence is care. Without presence is absence in disguise. Dependence clings physically while drifting mentally. Care arrives fully and leaves cleanly, returning as promised. She also practices care for the future. She saves, plans, and reduces avoidable chaos. She learns the practical skills that make a life run: budgeting, cooking, basic fixes around the home, scheduling, health checkups. Romance is easier when logistics are not a fire. Dependence hopes the future will be kind. Care prepares for winter while enjoying summer. This preparation is not fear, it is respect for time. In intimacy, she makes safety visible. She asks consent not as a box to tick, as an ongoing conversation. Is this good? More? Less? She attends to aftercare, warmth, water, words, because closeness is not complete without the landing. She does not use closeness as leverage. She treats it as a trust that both must earn again and again. Dependence uses intimacy to avoid conflict. Care uses communication to deepen intimacy. She is generous with patience but precise with limits. Partner is learning a new way to communicate. She celebrates progress and tolerates awkwardness. If the same harm repeats, she does not use love as an excuse to lower the bar. She believes that standards are care for both. They keep the relationship from degrading into a space where neither can be proud of who they are becoming. Love that does not ask us to grow is comfort that slowly erodes respect. Her care includes space. She supports solitude without suspicion and encourages friendships without envy. She knows that a person who breathes freely returns with more to give. Dependence demands constant proof and calls it passion. Care trusts the bond enough to allow oxygen. She says, go train, go create, go see your people. And when they reunite, they have something fresh to lay on the table. New stories, new energy, new lessons. She studies how she receives care too. When help is offered, she does not refuse out of pride or accept out of laziness. She receives as a partner, not as a child. Thank you, she says, and she lets gratitude be the fertilizer that grows more mutual effort. Dependence takes and forgets. Care receives and multiplies. Over time, her actions create a climate, predictable warmth, honest air, weather that nourishes growth. People relax in climates like this. They stop bracing for the next storm. Trust becomes the default. And when a real storm arrives, as life guarantees, it does not shatter the house. The house has been maintained day by 1,000 small acts of care. So her love does not cling, it carries. It carries groceries and burdens, schedules and secrets, dreams and disappointments. It does not say, I need you to be weak so I can feel strong. It says, let us both become strong so we can carry more life together. In this way, dependency loses its disguise and what remains is simple and powerful. Love proven by consistent care. Her heart remains open, yet her mind stays awake. She balances feeling and wisdom. She understands that love needs two guardians: compassion to welcome, discernment to protect. Stands alone, it invites anyone to enter and rearrange the furniture. If discernment stands alone, it bolts the door and the rooms grow cold. So she trains both. She lets warmth flow through the doorway. She keeps the lock working. This is not distrust. It is stewardship of a life she has taken time to build. An open heart is her strength, not a weakness to be exploited. She lets herself be moved by kindness, by beauty, effort. She allows tears when they want to come and laughter when it wants to rise. She does not armor herself against tenderness. But the mind stays awake beside that tenderness, asking quiet, respectful questions. Does this person's story match their steps? Is attention consistent when novelty fades? Do they handle power gently? Feeling says, I hope. Wisdom replies, Let hope meet evidence. She honors both voices. She treats intuition like a finely tuned instrument, useful, but kept in tune by practice and calibration. Intuition brings early signals. She verifies them with reality. When she senses alignment, she does not crown a stranger. When she senses dissonance, she does not condemn without data. She collects small proofs, kept promises, calm repairs, steady presence under pressure. Wisdom is patient enough to wait for the pattern. An open heart celebrates, an awake mind measures. Between celebration and measurement, trust finds its true size. Her openness is choice, not compulsion. She does not share her deepest chapters with a page that has not earned it. She opens in layers that match the strength of the container. When the container proves weak, careless with secrets, careless with time, she does not pour more, hoping to teach it to hold. She stops pouring. The heart stays kind. The mind closes the tap. In this way, she prevents intimacy from turning into exposure. She knows that boundaries are not the opposite of love. They are the geometry that gives love its shape. A river without banks becomes a flood that drowns fields. With banks, it irrigates them. Her banks are simple. Speak truth, honor time, take responsibility, repair harms, keep hands and words gentle. The heart wants to forgive. The mind asks for change behavior. Forgiveness opens the door. Standards invite the right people to stay. When conflict comes, her openness invites understanding before verdicts. She asks, "What did you mean? What were you protecting? What can we do better?" Yet her awake mind tracks facts. Was the apology specific? Did patterns shift after? Is care present when no one is watching? Compassion sees the child in the mistake. Discernment sees the adult in the choice. She can hold both without collapsing into cynicism or naivety. She refuses the false choices that culture sells her: cold genius or warm folly. She practices warm clarity. Warm clarity listens with full presence, then speaks with clean edges. "I feel this," she says, naming the heart. "I need this." She adds, naming the mind's requirement. If the response tries to negotiate her out of her needs, the heart doesn't argue, the mind changes the distance. Distance is not punishment, it is calibration. Her generosity is real, but it is not gullible. She gives first, and then she watches the loop. Does energy return? Not always immediately, not always in the same form. Over time, does the exchange feel like partnership or like extraction? If the loop is closed, she deepens. If it is open and leaking, she repairs it with conversation. If the leak is a feature, not a flaw, she steps away with grace. Love cannot breathe in a vacuum. She prepares for love the way an athlete prepares for competition, by training fundamentals when no one is watching. Sleep, food, movement, learning, solitude. Disciplines keep the mind awake when the heart surges. A regulated body grants her the pause that saves relationships from impulsive words and saves her from staying where she does not belong. She respects chemistry. She does not let chemistry override character. Attraction is a spark, character is the wiring. The wiring must be sound. In joy, she is fully open. She does not brace for the crash when good moments arrive. She receives them and names them so they can be repeated. This kind of evening nourishes me. This way of speaking brings me close. Naming is wisdom applied to wonder. It helps both remember where the door to joy is and how to find it again when days are heavy. In grief, she is equally awake. She does not romanticize pain or rush it away. She gives it room to instruct. The heart feels, extracts the lesson. What boundary was too soft? What signal did she ignore? What promise did she make to herself that she will keep next time? Lessons turn grief into compost that enriches the next season, not a stain that ruins it. She honors contradictions without being ruled by them. She can want someone and still walk if alignment is missing. She can miss someone and still refuse a return to the same old pattern. She can forgive and still decline further access. These paradoxes do not confuse her. They confirm that the heart and the mind are both alive and doing their work. Her conversations reflect this balance. She leads with curiosity, then clarifies agreements. How do we fight? How do we repair? What does commitment mean here? What is non-negotiable for each of us? The heart provides courage to ask, records the answers, and compares them to behavior. When behavior strays, she returns to the map kindly, not as a prosecutor, but as a partner. If the map keeps being ignored, she chooses a new journey. She is not embarrassed by standards. Standards do not make her difficult, they make her dependable. People know what version of her will show up, the one who listens, tells the truth, and follows through. An open heart without standards becomes a weather report. An awake mind without warmth becomes a spreadsheet. Together, they form a climate where people can breathe and grow. She practices the art of proportion. Every slight is a betrayal. Not every discomfort is a red flag. Not every flaw is a deal breaker. Her mind sizes issues correctly. Her heart responds accordingly. Misstep receives a small response and a path to repair. A pattern of harm receives a large response and a door that closes. Proportion turns drama into dialogue and exhaustion into evolution. Above all, she keeps choosing presence. Presence is the meeting place of heart and mind. In presence, she feels the pulse of the moment and sees the line of the horizon. She is not imprisoned by yesterday's stories or hijacked by tomorrow's fears. She decides from here. Here, she can say yes without losing herself and no without losing compassion. Here, she is soft and unshakable. She lives like this. Her love is both safe and exciting. Safe because wisdom guards it. Exciting because openness keeps it alive. Those who enter her life feel invited to be fully human, feeling deeply, choosing wisely, growing steadily, and she, holding both lanterns, walks a path that is bright without glare, warm without wildfire, free without drifting. An open heart, an awake mind. This is her discipline. This is her peace. She loves differently because she has mastered the art of loving herself first. Not as a slogan, not as a mask for pride, but as a daily discipline. Early mornings where breath steadies the mind, quiet evenings where the day is reviewed with honesty, small promises to her body and spirit kept without audience. She has learned that self-love is not indulgence, it is stewardship, is the way a gardener tends soil long before seeds are visible. When the ground is healthy, everything planted has a chance to live. Her self-love began with truth. She stopped negotiating with the mirror. She looked at her strengths without false humility and at her weaknesses without shame. She met the inner critic like a strict teacher and retrained it to become a fair onesie, specific, instructive, never cruel. She replaced the question, what is wrong with me, with what is needed now. That single shift turned storms into assignments. Assignments can be completed. Storms feel endless. Loving herself first means she takes responsibility for her energy. Sleep is not optional. Movement is not decorative. Food is not a reward or a punishment. These are the pillars that hold her house. When the pillars are steady, she does not ask a partner to become her roof, her floor, and her walls. She arrives as a house already standing with windows open to share light, not a frame begging to be completed. Homes can build a village. Two collapsing frames only create rubble. Because she respects herself, she curates her environment. She organizes her finances, honors her time, keeps company with people who speak to her future rather than her fears. This is not snobbery, it is hygiene. The heart thrives in clean spaces, clean of chaos, of gossip, of cycles that cost more than they teach. When love arrives, it steps into order, and order allows joy to linger. Self-love made her courageous with boundaries. She says no without blaming, yes without bargaining. She does not call self-abandonment compromise. She does not label anxiety chemistry. She does not romanticize inconsistency as mystery. Loving herself taught her vocabulary. She can name what she feels and will do next. This clarity is not hard, it is kind. It prevents others from guessing and prevents her from resenting. She forgives herself quickly and holds herself accountable consistently. Forgiveness without accountability becomes avoidance. Accountability without forgiveness becomes cruelty. She practices both. When she missteps, she makes repair with the person she hurt and with the person inside her chest. Inner repair. We will do better. Here is how. Keeps her from seeking rescue in romance. She arrives to love as a partner, not as a patient. Because her own cup is full, her giving is clean. She does not hand out what she secretly hopes to be paid back for. She gives because it aligns with who she is, not to purchase presents or buy silence. Self-love emptied her of the hunger that bargains. In its place grew the capacity to choose. Choice is the signature of a free heart. A free heart can be generous without fear of becoming empty. She made peace with solitude, not the numb scrolling that imitates rest. Rich aloneness where ideas appear and breath deepens. In solitude, she learned her own scent, what she likes, what nourishes, what she will protect even at cost. When you know your own scent, chase every perfume that passes by. Attraction can visit without becoming a command. This is how she avoids confusing intensity with intimacy. Self-love sharpened her discernment. She no longer confuses being chosen with being cherished. She watches for care, not just for desire, for effort on ordinary days, not just fireworks on special ones. She studies how someone treats themselves when they fail. She notes whether they can apologize without performance and celebrate without arrogance. She is not auditioning, she is observing. Her standard is not perfection, it is teachability. A teachable heart can grow. She has grown herself enough to recognize it. In conflict, her self-regard keeps the ground from crumbling. She does not beg to be believed about her own experience. She speaks it calmly, writes it clearly, and if necessary, protects it with distance. Distance is not revenge, it is maintenance of the temple. Her temple is her peace. She has swept it too many mornings to let anyone track mud through it without consequence. Self-love turned endings from catastrophes into completions. She still grieves. She does not dramatize. She thanks what was learned, honors what was real, and releases what is finished. She does not return to familiar pain just because it knows her name. She is loyal to her unfolding, not to her old wounds. Because she can end cleanly, she can also begin cleanly. New love does not inherit unpaid debts from yesterday's story. Her joy is no longer an accident, it is a practice. She collects small joys, fresh air after rain, a line in a book that rearranges her thinking, sweat earned from a difficult session, a friend's laugh that resets the day. By noticing, she multiplies. By multiplying, she becomes a person whose presence lifts a room. Love near such a person breathes easier, because the air is already oxygenated. Loving herself first does not make her invulnerable, it makes her available. Available to be moved, to be surprised, to be taught. She can admit, I don't know, without collapsing. She can ask for help without handing away her power. She can be wrong without turning it into a trial. This flexibility is the secret strength that keeps relationships from snapping under pressure. Her devotion to herself redefines loyalty in partnership. Loyalty to her is not staying no matter what, it is staying while both are growing. It is showing up for repair, not showing up for repetition. If growth stalls, she asks, invites, and works. If growth refuses, she blesses and bows out. Self-love does not make ultimatums, it makes decisions that protect life. She builds rituals with a partner that reflect the rituals she keeps alone. Check-ins, tech-free windows, shared movement, shared learning, gratitude spoken out loud. The relationship becomes an extension of her inner practice, not a replacement for it. This is why her love feels stable, running on habits stronger than mood. She has learned to celebrate her own becoming, not in comparison, but in continuity. Today more honest than yesterday, today more gentle, today more exact. This celebration is quiet and powerful. It attracts those who are also becoming. Together, they form a union that is less about filling holes and more about building horizons. So yes, she loves differently. It's not chase, she invites. She does not perform, she embodies. She does not demand to be completed. She offers to co-create. Because she loved herself first, she is not asking love to rescue her from herself. She is asking love to meet her two steady fires, warming a larger circle, carrying light further than either could alone.